Then guys, the figure that we have for the first one, I'm going to do it a small figure, only to show you. Is and the last line that we have is in here. Okay. But you can see that this has a part with some lines that is below. It's located like in here, something like this. Okay, this is the part that you have below, and the other part is completely shaded. This part is completely shaded. Okay, so we have something like this. This is with lines, and the other one is on the top. So they ask you to rotate this figure, but if you rotate this figure, it's going to be the same because it's a square. So is going to be the same measure for all the sides. Remember that for the figures, I don't change the measures for the angles and neither for the sides, the measure of the sides. So how is going to be the figure if I rotate it 90 degrees? This part, you start rotating the figure. Imagine that you starting here, this is 0 for you. So you start moving all the figure, and this part now is going to be located in here because you rotated 90 degrees. Okay, so this point that you have in here in 0 have to be in here. So what does this mean? That this part that we have below in here is going to appear to the right now. Okay, it's going to appear in the right position. I need to draw the other figure to show you. Okay, so we have something like this, and now this part of the figure is going to be rotated. And it's going to appear something like this, okay? You move it, this part. So this point now, can you see? Okay, so if we rotate the figure, we obtain something like that. You rotate it through the origin, so through the center of the figure. The center of the figure is the point that is completely on the center, okay, of the figure. This for the first one, okay? So the more interesting is the second one. The first one doesn't have too much. So for the second one, what are the coordinates of the image of the trapezoid ABCD? So we have the trapezoid that you can see in the figure, ABCD, and after a 90 degrees rotation about the origin. So what is the origin? Remember, the point 0, 0, 0 for x and 0 for y, okay? So through the origin, you are going to rotate the figure. I'm going to draw the figure with you, and later we are going to see how this is going to rotate, okay? So I just need to erase. Tell me.
Mister, okay. So the origin, we need to get it from the nearest point to the center, right?
In this figure, because it was located in a house, okay? So you use like the origin, the center of the figure. For the second example, you are going to use the, okay, the axis, the y-axis, the x-axis, and you use the origin like the point 0, 0, okay? Because they give you in the, okay, they give you the figures and you can see the axis. So you are going to move to the center, okay, to the origin. Okay, so I'm just going to erase this and we can start with the second one. Okay, so for the second one, we have something similar. maybe we can use this. And we have two equal parts for here, and I hope that you can see this color. Okay, we are going to imagine that this is the both axis that I need, the part for y and the part for x. Then if I draw the figure is a trapezoid. So I have something like this. The figure is not a square, guys. It's a trapezoid. So we have something like this. It's smaller from in the top. It's smaller in the top. Okay. In the other figure, we are going to rotate it. Okay. Using this. And how many degrees are you going to rotate this? You are going to rotate it 90 degrees. So, okay, in this part, I need to explain you before we start doing the other figure. We need to draw a ray, okay, one little line through the origin to the point D. The origin, again, I'm talking about the point 0, 0. Drawing to the point D, that is the point that is the first one.
Mr. Sorry, Xiomara Ramos said that she has problems with her internet.
Okay. Okay. So for the first one, use a protractor to draw 90 degrees, a angle of 90 degrees in the counterclockwise direction. So what are you going to do? First, you draw the ray. I need a different color, but I only have two. So I try to show you using this. This is the origin, right? The point 0, 0. And you are going to draw the ray until this point, that this point has to be D. The other point is C. And in the top, we have A and B. I need to rotate this figure since this point, and I need to move it, okay, in the 90 degrees that they are asking me in the exercise. Okay, it's like you take the figure completely. Imagine that this is like a string, maybe. Okay, so you have the figure and you are rotating everything. Okay, you are going to rotate this through the other part. Why I move it in this direction? Remember that we measure the angles starting in here. That has to be your 0. 0, I have 0 degrees in here. And you start, I have 90 degrees in here, 180 degrees. When I'm on the part below is 270. And again, when you come back is 360. I don't know if you remember how to measure the angles. Okay, so it's this direction. If you do it in the opposite direction, it's going to be negative, your angle. Okay, so again, you move the figure, and I need to project now for the other part a angle of 90 degrees to locate the other point. So if you have in here, you put your protractor, okay, and you measure the 90 degrees, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, okay, completely in here is going to be. Now, the only thing that you need to do is to, okay, is to draw the other figure, D and D prime, okay, because you already measured the line that is going to be for the 90 degrees, okay. The only thing that we need to measure maybe is the distance that we are going to have. It's like this.
Mr.
So tell me.
Dice, perdón que le interrumpa, dice Xiomara que si la puede dejar entrar.
Okay, I already accepted her in this moment. I already accepted. Okay, this is your point D. This is the first step to solve this. Later, using the grids, you have the first point, so you only need to locate the other points. Okay. So, for example, see if before we complete the figure, I need to explain you the table that we have below. About a generalization, the x and y coordinates of a point changes as shown in the table below. Okay, when we rotate the figure in a counterclockwise, counterclock is opposite of the movement of the clock. Okay, so we are in the other direction. About the origin, again, about the origin, remember the point 0, 0. So the angle of rotation, for example, when it's 90 degrees, you have the coordinate x and y, but they are going to change. Now, the first value that you have for the coordinate x is the value you have at the beginning for the coordinate y. And you change the sign because we are going to work in the negative part of x. Okay. Later you have the same for the 180 degrees and the 270 degrees. You need to memorize this because most of the examples are with 90, 180 or 270 degrees. Okay, so it's better if you memorize it. So then the new coordinates that we are going to have for the, for example, for the first one, if A was 2, 3, now it's going to be 3, 2. Only that the 3 is negative because we are in the negative part of the x. Okay, in the graph we are in the using the negative numbers for x. The same for B, C, and D. You can see that you are going to change the coordinates. Then now I can show you the figure, how is going to be the figure. B, and you separate. For example, the measuring here is 20 centimeters. If you move, for example, 1, 2, 3 units, I don't know. In the book, I think that they have at least 4 or more units. So you need to measure the same. Okay, this side has to be the same. So if I move it in here, this is the prime. And this point is going to be C prime. Has to be the same measure, okay? You move it, but the measure for the length, they are not going to change. And for the other part, for example, what is the distance for this one? 10 centimeters. So you measure 10 centimeters too. Okay. And for the other one, other 10 centimeters. And you only complete. In here, I have the same, that is going to be this. Okay, it looks a little different because in here, I need to do it more like a conflict line. That's the reason why I told you at the beginning that not having a grid could be difficult if we are doing these figures because we cannot draw the same shape, the same form of the figure. So D, C, this is going to be A and B prime. A prime and B prime. So you can see we rotate the figure, but we rotate it complete. We don't rotate only some points. I have the figure and I move it until it's located in the other part of the graph, okay? So this for this part, okay, for the first example. So for example, the coordinates for D, in here, I'm going to copy the coordinates for D. It was 1 for X and it was 1 for Y. So in the other point has to be located in -1 for x, but keep the same position in 1 for y, okay? If you do for C, for example, you rotate it, so now you change the coordinate, okay? So if C, for example, in here, what was the coordinate in x for C? It was 5. C was 5 for x, okay? So if you move it, now C prime is going to be 5, but for the value of y. Do you understand? Because of the table that you have below, you can identify this, that the coordinate for x now is going to be the coordinate for y, okay? And the opposite too, the coordinate that I have for y now is going to be for x, because I rotate the figure. This is going to help you when you need to draw the figures. Okay, the same for the, okay, the other one. In the example 3, to describe the rotation, guys, is the same, okay? Only that we already have the figure and we measure the angle that we obtain. How are we going to measure this? We take one point, for example, in this case, they take A and A prime. Remember, I take the same point in both figures. If I take one, for example, B in one point, in the other one, I'm going to take B prime, okay? If I take C in the other figure, I'm going to take C prime, okay? I'm relating the same part of the figure. I draw the ray through the origin, so starting in the point 0, 0, until I get the point. And I'm going to measure with the, I'm going to measure using the protractor, the number of degrees that I have. That's the reason why I told you that it's better if you have the complete protractor, okay? But if you don't have it, you can use something like this. If you measure in the positive way, you are going to have 270 degrees in here. And if you do it in the negative way, okay, you start in here and you go below, then it's going to be negative 90. 90 degrees, but negative because you move in the other direction, okay? So remember that for degrees matter if you, in what direction you use it, okay, or you do it. Questions about this?
Mister,
examples?
I have a question,
Mm-hmm.
but sorry because it's not of the topic, is about the homeworks. Because why on the rubric you put like page 278, and on the platform you put other page, other.
No, I told you that in the beginning. Remember that in the PDF book that I had, the pages were different, but we corrected. So I updated the rubric. You can find the rubric again. It's like 3 or more weeks ago that I told you this. The
Okay.
rubric is in the section of documents and it's the same. But remember that
Yes.
I remind you again and I write again the pages on the homework.
So the rubric is the correct.
The rubric is correct because I updated. I uploaded again, like 3 weeks or more ago. I don't remember. Since we started the topic 5, I corrected it. So
sorry.
So you can download again if you need it. Okay. And remember, I always remind you in the homework when I upload it, I write it again the number of pages so you don't confuse with that. Okay. But it's okay that you ask so we can clarify about that. Okay. Then guys, if you don't have any other question, I'm going to finish in here for today. So I'm going to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we can solve some examples, more examples or something about this. Okay, but before you disconnect guys, okay, I'm going to finish the recording.